don't forget the money, man.
Clark here at the new Matt Clark. How are each and every one of you doing on this amazing Thursday? I'm doing great. My girl's doing great. My family's doing great. I hope each and every one of you are doing great, even though right now times are crazy and chaotic. As you can see, if you could please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that bell notification button so you get all my videos when they're new. If you could share with somebody on social media, help spread the message, help spread the word, that would be amazing. And there's a PayPal option if you'd like to donate, help support the channel. The link is in the description of all my videos. So today, or yesterday actually, I did this great video with DOCTV813. It's a great interview. I cut out the intro just because it's choppy. For some reason, when I talked, it was choppy. I was having problems with my internet. But I really wanted to put the interview up anyways because I think it's great. And I talk minimally through the whole thing. So stay tuned. And Mr. DOCTV813, why don't you tell everybody who you are and your backstory and how we got here.
All right, bro. So what's up, man? Thanks for having me on the channel. I watched a couple of your episodes. You're doing good stuff, man. So a little bit about me. I was born in Tampa, Florida. I grew up Florida boy, man. Never really left. Lived here my whole life. And, for me, my dad died when I was 7. My mom was a drug addict and hooked on drugs. So my grandparents kind of raised me. But I would still go back to my mom because they wanted her to be in my life, hoping that, she would change her ways and be a mother to me. And that never happened. It still hasn't happened to this day. But when I went back there, man, I was introduced to the chaos, like violence. She was on drugs, so the drug game. And that's really where, I took a turn for the worse in my life. When I was 12, the first arrest I've ever had was an armed burglary and a grand larceny. When I was in 6th grade, me and my boys robbed a house. We stole some ammunition and some jewelry. In Florida, when you rob a house and you arm yourself with a gun or ammunition, they turn that from a burglary into armed burglary. And in the state of Florida, that's a PBL. So I'd had that at 12. Luckily, it was my first charge. So I got put on probation until I turned 18. I didn't complete the probation. I got violated a couple of times, and I ended up in a level 8 program for juveniles in Florida.
Nice. And I know personally here in Canada, if you just do like a regular break and enter with no weapons or whatever, it's just considered a break and enter, which is a Schedule 2 crime. So it's no violence. You're still going to get hit with pretty good time. The maximum sentence here for a break and enter is life. But, for your first, you might get 6 months or a year. As soon as a weapon gets involved or somebody is in the house, now that becomes home invasion, armed robbery, forcible confinement, and it totally changes everything. Now you're looking at football numbers, So, so you're young when you went through that.
Yeah.
So what happened from there? I know that that's hard going through 6 months of probation or 6 years of probation when you're young. It kind of creates an impossible situation for you, right? They kind of set you up for failure. So what happened from there?
So I was put on the probation. And man, I was just doing jitterbug shit, bro. We would go to the movies on the weekend and, a couple of my homeboys would just go around looking for fights. And we end up beating up this kid one time and, the cops show up. He's in the cop car. They pull us over. They got a description of the car. Boom, he points to me. So I violated probation for that. And a couple other things, for a fight I went to an alternative school because I got kicked out of public schools. And I ended up getting in a fight with a kid and his dad in the parking lot. And they pressed charges on me. So then that's when all those violations came in, I went to a level 8 program, and that's where like I got. And in Florida, that's like a boot camp type setup. It was in the wilderness, so you have like cottages and shit, kind of like Boy Scouts on steroids. And that's when, you know, I was already fighting on the street, but you really are fighting in there because they have it, you know, in Florida, what's called a TOH. So right when you get there, somebody's going to step off in your chest and see where you're at. And if you're soft, and you're going to break it off, and they're just going to keep doing that to you. So, you know, that's really where I learned, you know, eventually I started doing the TOHs, and that's just, you know, you get caught up in that culture of prison and, you know, the fighting and the gangs and all that shit. So I completed that program. And then I got out, and eventually I ended up catching new felonies, and I got arrested and went to adult prison in the state of Florida. On that arrest, you know, during the time when I was out, I got really big into the pill game. In Florida, we had pill mills where, you know, you could go to 8 different doctors in one day and leave there with over 1,000 pills. So I was selling the pills. I was sponsoring people to go. So like, you know, someone was hooked on pills and they didn't have money, but they wanted the pills, I would pay for them to go. I would get, you know, most of their pills, and then I would give them enough, you know, to not be dope sick or to get through the month until the next visit. And during that time, you know, I was only 18 at that time when all that shit was going on. And, you know, I was dating a chick, some girl she had met that lived like next door to us in an apartment complex. She, you know, some shit happened, and the girl ended up like trying to rob me when I was passed out in the room, and she ended up overdosing, the chick. So, you know, at first they charged me with trafficking for all the pills because I had a bunch of different doctors I was going to, and the pills weren't all in the right bottles. There was shit everywhere from where she was going through the stuff trying to figure out which pills she wanted to steal. And, you know, the next morning I woke up and she was overdosing on the couch. So I had to call the cops because I'm not going to let her fucking die. You know what I'm saying? And so that turned from like a trafficking. They dropped that down to a sales and delivery of each pill. It was oxycodone, Xanax, I think Soma. And there was another one. I can't remember what it was. So I sat in jail for 1.5 years fighting that, because in Florida, you have minimum mandatories where, you know, if you get caught with this amount of drugs, you do 3 years day for day. You know, it just depends on what schedule the drug it is. So I ended up fighting that, and I ended up pleading out, and I got 24 months in prison that time. And that's when I entered into adult prison in the state of Florida.
Man, it sounds like your system's a little harsh down there. It sounds like your laws are tough. Like, you know, here in Canada, honestly, there's, you know, it's minimal time, first time trafficking charge. You know, if you're trafficking, you know, even if it's a big time thing, even if you got a big operation going and it's not fentanyl or heroin, as long as it's not those two things, even pills, you're not gonna do that much. Like, you're probably about the same amount of time that you had, but the mandatory minimums, we don't have that here, and we don't have, like, for certain things they do, but not very many things. And it just seems like down there in Florida they're a little harsh. So where exactly did you do time? Like, I know you guys have state and federal. I know federal's for drugs and stuff, right? Is that how it works?
Well,
exactly?
Federal can be for drugs. It can be for, you know, a white collar crime, tax fraud, tax evasion, embezzling money, you know, all that type shit. But usually in Florida, state prison is worse than federal prison because you have more high end criminals in feds. In state, you got the low end, you know, the murders.
The goons.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, I went to prison in Florida, in Orlando, as a reception center. I ended up there. And then I ended up at the East unit, which is right next to the main unit, which is they're both receptions, but I became a permanent at the East unit. And honestly, man, like that bid, other than like, you know, when you're in prison, you know how it goes, man. Like, you're going to get tried, and it's usually over some dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody bucking you on $5 or fucking, you know, trying not to pay you shit that they borrowed. So that was the first fight I got into. I fronted a dude some shit. We were playing poker heavy, And I fronted him the shit. He won the pot that night after count. I'm like, hey, bro, shoot me that money I let you borrow, because he just came up. You know what I'm saying? So he's got it to pay back. And he tried to buck me on it. So I immediately was like, bro, grab the wall. So, you know, we tightened up on the wall in Florida. That's where you fight, because it's a blind spot for the officer station to not see you. So I didn't end up getting caught for that fight. It was actually a pretty quick fight. You know, I hit him. He was quick. You know, I'm a bigger dude, so he was hitting me, but I just picked him up and scooped him and slammed him, and that was the end of the fight. And so, but other than that, bro, like my first bid, it was pretty sweet. Like I had a girl, I was close to my house. She was bringing me in the bomb, which is drugs for people that don't know what that is. And I was making money in there. It was a laid back, chill camp. And that's really, looking back on it now, that's why I went back, I think, for the second time. Because, you know, like I know when you start going to jail, when you first go, you're like, man, like you don't want to be there. The shit sucks. You can't really adapt to it. Then you go about 5, 6, 7 more times and you're like, okay, I know the rhythm now. And then you go to prison for the first time and it's the same thing. Like, what do I expect? You always have some fear of the unknown, but once you go and you get past that, the system is designed to make you comfortable, man. And that's why so many people go in, go out, and go back in, because you get used to it, as sick as that sounds. And that's what happened with me. I got out. I started going back. I mean, the day I left prison, I, you know, had the girl I was dating, grabbed her phone. She was selling the whole time I was in prison, and I just took over the phone with all the people that are, you know, all the clients in the phone, and I went right back to the game. And I ended up getting arrested again for sales and delivery of crack cocaine, oxycodone, Xanax, and grand theft. I'd fronted a girl some pills to sell down in Miami. She tried to buck me on it when she came back, and I took her camera and her watch off the counter of her apartment when I was there trying to get my money. And I said, when you got my money, you'll get your shit back. And she called the cops and said I stole her shit. So, and I was already on bond for the sales charges. So once you get arrested with a new charge, they pull your bonds on all the charges. So I was in jail. I got an attorney. I ended up pleading out that time to 18 months. And it was that time that I really ended up at a fucked up camp, you know, one of the worst in Florida. And that's really when I got exposed to like a real prison, you know what I'm saying? Like the violence and everything like that.
Yeah. Like, so for me, it's a pretty similar story in terms of kind of how progression was. You know, I went through the boot camp system too, but mine was a little younger. It was at 16, 17 years old. And then, you know, did a couple little measly adult, like provincial bids, which here is anything less than 2 years is a provincial bid. And then once I got my first Fed bid, it's funny because they put me in like a low security place where it's like an apartment, you cook your own food, you know, and I lasted like 6 months and I was booted to the higher security for selling drugs. And I stayed for 4 months, got shipped to Joyceville, which is a high medium security. So there's one high and it's not, it wasn't a complete war zone, but it was real prison. And honestly, I got more comfortable there than any place else I'd done time. I did 7 years there and never once got in a fight, never once struggled for anything. Had my brother, because my brother's a lifer. He was there with me for almost 3 years. I was like, movie channel on the TV. You know,
laid back in the Maybach.
Every once in a while, you see somebody get stabbed in their neck or in their throat or their eye, and it reminds you that you're in a savage place. And I remember in that place, we had runs where it'd be 6 months straight where it's just war all the time, pretty much, people getting poked up, and then 6 months quiet, and then the tension builds. So what was that next place that you went to, and what was that like?
Well, it was called Gulf. They call it the Gulf. I'll give you a perfect analogy of it. So Gulf is in a county called Weewahitchka. It's like this country-ass town. So when you pull up and we got off the bus, we're all lined up in front of the bus. They're taking our property. The first thing the officer said to us when we got off the bus was, welcome to Weewa Hitchka, Florida, and we gon' hit ya. And they meant every bit of that. The officers there were like, you had to be more worried about the officers killing you than the inmates. And when I had got there, I was only there for 2 or 3 weeks, I think it was, and I got into my first fight. In Florida, we have gunners, and they gun the women officers, the nurses, any woman that works for the prison. They'll literally just pull their dick out and start gunning her down. And
yeah, here that's called popping off. That's whack. You'll get some groups accept it, but it's super whack.
yeah, so this dude, he slept in the bunk next to me. We were in an open bay dorm, and she was going around for count, and you can see the officer station. So, you know, I was relaxing for count. So I roll over, I'm facing the wall. We're in a corner, and I hear some shit. So I turn over, and he's on his bunk, dick out, lotion out, gunning her down. And I just lost it, bro. I'm like I'm not on that shit. And to me, when you do that, like you're a rapo. Like you're literally raping her, but she doesn't have a choice to say no, because she might not even know you're doing it. So I was like, man, listen, I'm not on that. So, and I told him tighten up. So we ended up fighting, and we got sprayed. They're taking us to confinement. And on the way there, the warden happened to be doing rounds around the compound. This was like at 10 o'clock at night. And they already knew this dude I fought because he was already like on their shit list. He had been there like, you know, I forget, like 13 years or some shit. So they all knew him. And the warden had came over to me, and the officer was telling him who I fought and what happened. And the warden literally was like, man, thank you for doing that. We fucking can't stand that dude. And then he asked me, are you part of the AB? And I wasn't affiliated. So I was like, no, I'm not. I don't like that shit. Like, you're not going to fucking jack off in front of me. And then when I went to confinement, you know, that's when I really saw the officers doing some corrupt shit back there. But believe it or not, when I was in confinement, you know, they slide your trays through the food flap. And there was a sergeant that worked on the breakfast. So he would pass out breakfast trays before his shift ended. And like every other day, he would slide me 2 trays because of what the dude I fought. That's how much they didn't like him. And they were like, man, there ain't too many white boys here that are bumping like that. So I respect what you did. And he would hook it up. And when you're in confinement, man, like your stomach's eating your backbone. So that double tray,
Yeah.
that meant some shit. You know what I'm saying? So, and then after that, I got out of confinement. And that's when I was approached by a couple white boys, you know, that were trying to get me to probate, or they wanted me to join up. There's a couple different sets, you know, in the Florida Department of Corrections. But so I like laid back and I chilled, man, and just watched them for a little bit. And honestly, man, like white boys have it rough in Florida prison. And that's because most white boys are folding. They're not standing on their, you know, they're not standing 10 toes down. They're breaking it off. And a lot of them that are in a gang or a set, like in a group, they talk a good game. But if they, you know, that group goes to B dorm and 2 of them go to A dorm and they get tried in A dorm, a lot of them aren't rocking out. So I didn't want to be tied into that. I just told myself at that point, like, look, I came in by myself. I'm going to do this time by myself, and I'm going to leave by myself. And after I'd fought the dude for gunning, he just happened to be a black dude. Really, I didn't have many more problems after that because, like I said, there's so many others that aren't bumping that can get, you know, they can get taken advantage of, that nobody really wants to, you know, step to somebody that they know is going to fight for their shit, or, you know, stand 10 toes down for themselves. So I didn't really have much problems after that. I never joined an organization. I was friends and, you know, tight with a bunch of people that were, man, but I just never, that's not my style. So I just stayed on my workout game, you know, did my thing and ended up coming home, man.
Yeah, and I totally agree with what you say. Like, I was totally on the same kind of action. Like, at the end of the day, you got to fight sometimes. Like, you just have to. You know, sometimes you got to stand for what you believe in, and you have to show people that you can't be taken advantage of, especially if you're somebody who plans on going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. because you will punk down your whole time. And it's similar here in Ontario for the white boys. In Canada, you know, it's not that all white guys are soft, because that's not the case. But if you go into prisons, you'll see that, like, the black guys are together, the Chinese guys are together, the Spanish guys are together, and the white guys are walking around trying to fit in with everybody else instead of just standing up for themselves. And sometimes you'll see 2-3 guys punk out a whole range, you know, like a whole range of guys. And so I totally understand what you're like. It's honestly disgusting at times, you know, because you look at the guy and you say, man, get through this. If you just have some courage.
And
you know,
that's how it is, and that's how it is here, man. Like, I met a couple solid white boys that were bumping. I don't want your audience to think like, you know, I'm not for there is solid white boys that are bumping 100%. But, you know, unfortunately, it's few far in between. And so, you know, like, when you do time, you got to surround yourself with people that you trust, that, you know, when it's time to go, they're going to go. And so that, you know, that's basically who I surrounded myself with, people that I know that were living like that and that were about their shit.
Yeah, and here it's also a lot different because we don't have the gang politics the same way in Ontario. So, like, if you go out west, you get Native gangs and stuff like that, Native American gangs. They're like that. Like, it's constant war all the time. But I feel it's more like neighborhoods. You know, it's more like this neighborhood can't be with this neighborhood because they beef on the street, but it's not like prison politics like that. But, you know, what would you say the Florida prison politics are like altogether? Like, I know down there you guys got booty bandits. You know, it doesn't happen here in Ontario. You'll get killed for that right away. You know, the whole place would go at you. Rape, sex offenses, they're not okay here. Like, in population, you'll get attacked. If people know that's on your record, you're getting attacked. So what exactly are the politics like there? Like, you know, most of the problems over, and is it possible to just kind of do your own time and just chill?
Yes and no. So the politics in Florida there's booty bandits everywhere. And as far as like politics, everything is run by gangs. So, you know, it's the beef and the fights and the wars usually start over drugs. In Florida, Tucci, K2, Spice, it's all the same thing. That's really where a lot of problems start, because you got a gang selling shit. You got a bunch of junkies trying to get the shit, and they either owe money or they're robbing people for it. So then that can create a war. And then you have the booty bandits who will literally fight over, you know, their punk. And that starts wars, because, you know, it's like a relationship, bro. Like, they literally treat it like they're with a female. And, you know, one dude will cheat on another, and next thing you know, like, you see that dude go across the compound to the dorm his boys sleeping in, and you hear about him getting stabbed up. But mostly, man, it's within the gangs. It's within the organization. So, you know, usually at a camp, you have a dominant gang that's got the drops, that's bringing shit in. And then you'll get hate or envy from another gang because they want in on it. And then that can create a war. And then just, you know, different stuff that comes up, you know, somebody robbing somebody that didn't know he was affiliated. Now his brothers find out, and that creates a war. But yeah, in a sense, you can just do your time. I think a lot of people get it confused because there's a lot of people talking about prison, you know, I mean, as you know, and, you know, every day is not war. Like, you are not fighting every single day, 365 days a year. So there are fights, but it's not like, you know, how some people make it out to be. Like, you can go to prison and stay in your own lane, be solid, don't get involved in any of the fuck shit, and do your time. Now, is someone going to try you? Yeah, but bro, someone's going to try you on the street. You know, it just depends on what level you want to take it to. And when somebody does try you, you got to do something about it. Because if not, then you look sweet, and then other people are going to try you. So the minute you put a stop to that from the door, you know, usually people respect that, and, you know, they won't try you again. But it does happen, you know what I'm saying? And it's usually over something dumb, bro. It's like, you know, let me borrow a suit. All right, I got you when I hit the window. Okay. And then 2 days go by. Hey, man, let me get 3 more suits and I got you. I just couldn't make it to the window. Then you got the 5th day, and now you're wanting your shit back, and dude's like giving you the runaround. You know what I'm saying? So that's when you got to either do something about it or just keep getting taken advantage of. And that's really where the problems come. It's usually little shit. As long as you're not involved in any of the booty bandit shit, as long as you're not on the drugs when you're in there and owing people money. But yeah, man, you can do your time and lay back, chill, you know, do your thing without you being at war with somebody, you know, 24/7.
Yeah, like, I mean, there are prisons that are absolutely insane, right? But no prisons are just 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. It might go through a stretch of time where there's war every day because there's people beefing. But eventually those people will move on, get shipped out because of all the violence, the tension will go down, it'll go chill for a bit, tension builds back up. It's usually how I saw it anyways. You know, I'm sure it's a little different here than there. We have a really small prison population. So like in Ontario, I think we have 7 prisons, 3 of which are camps, and none of the populations in the federal system, which is any bit over 2 years, has a bigger population than like 600 people.
Damn, bro. We got 137 prisons in the state of Florida.
Yeah, we only have 25,000 active inmates at a time in our country. In our country.
That's crazy, bro.
That are locked up at a time. Like, there's more actively on parole and stuff like that, but just in prison, it's only like 25,000.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Because it's not privatized here, right? It's not a business. It's run by the government. Sure, they make money off it, off your revolving door policy, but there's no like business interest from just regular companies. So the problem here the government pays all their bills. They all make good money. All the coppers make good money. They don't want to lose their jobs because they're making $80,000 a year, so they're a little bit more respectful of the inmates. You know, I'm sure if you're in a prison where they're making $15 an hour, they're probably kicking ass all the time, right? Because they're miserable, right? Like, miserable. It's a difficult life for that kind of money, right?
Yeah, facts.
So what made you decide to get into the YouTube channel?
So after I got out of prison this last time, you know, in the beginning, I was kind of still fucking off, and I ended up getting arrested again for some like stupid ass shit. I was, you know, grand theft. I had a possession charge, a couple other things. Nothing crazy, just all like 3rd-degree felony type bullshit charges. And, you know, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I ended up, you know, meeting a chick. She was like a good girl, man, never been arrested, never did drugs, you know, and she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so that helped me, bro. You need to have support. I don't have family. I have a grandfather. That's pretty much it for me. So, you know, I had told her when I met her, like, look, I've been to prison twice. I got a record, but I'm trying to change my life, because at that point, man, I didn't want to live like that anymore. I wanted to just live a normal life. And so I ended up going to school. I did corresponding classes when I was in prison and I became a personal trainer. I ended up getting hired at a gym, and I became a personal training manager. And I really learned, you know, we're hustlers, bro. So when we turn our hustle into something positive, we usually succeed, because that's what we were meant to do the whole time. We just got caught up in the wrong game. And so I ended up doing better, man. And then I created this YouTube channel. For people watching that don't know, it's DOCTV813. And I created the channel. I laid back for a while. I watched a bunch of other channels that are talking about prison, and I respect what they're doing. But my channel, I really want to give people a voice, and I bring people on for interviews because of that. And I will only bring somebody on my channel that has changed their life and that are doing something positive, because I think, You know, the time isn't when you're in prison. That shit's easy to do. The time starts when you get out. What are you going to do now? You have a record. You know, you didn't address any problems in your life that sent you to prison. All you did was sit around and just do nothing for a while. So, you know, that's why the recidivism rates are so high. That's why people get caught in that, like you said, the hamster wheel, and they keep going back because that becomes the new normal. So how do we break out of that? And I think the more people that hear stories of people that have broken out of that and have changed their life will give the people that think that's not possible a little bit of hope. And so I talk about that. And I tell my stories. I tell some war stories because people want to hear about war stories more than they do, you know, a reentry program for people. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I try to give them what they want, but at the same time, put in a positive twist and, you know, just tell my story and where I failed in life. So maybe someone will hear that and know, like, hold on, I heard that guy say this in his story and I'm starting to do some shit like that. I might end up where he ended up, and I don't want to do that. And so, you know, that's why I created the channel.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, man. Like when I started my channel, you know, I didn't go with the intention to be some giant YouTuber who's going to make millions of dollars. I went in because I figured not very many people have been through what we've been through, you know. And when I was coming up, I didn't have anybody to tell me, don't do this, don't do that. I don't have negative influences in my ear telling me, do this, do this, do this, right? So I feel maybe if I heard that, I know I'm smart enough, maybe if I heard that, I would have said, I need to slow down a bit. You know, I made some good decisions myself, you know, separated myself from some people long before breaking the law because they were super violent, and I saw myself directly towards a murder charge. I didn't want to get up with, considering I already lost a brother to that. You know, last words for this interview. If you could tell my subscribers, and I have 5,000 people that listen to this channel who need advice, who need somebody talking positively in their ear and telling them that there's hope, that the person that's locked up in their life isn't a write-off, that there's possibilities. What advice would you give those people?
I mean, for anybody struggling, watching, and I would tell them, you know, when I was young, I thought I always had something to prove, man. I felt like I had to, you know, have everybody's respect. And, you know, what I've learned along the way in my life is that you're not going to make everybody happy. You are never going to be the biggest, baddest motherfucker. There's always somebody that can put you down on the ground. And, you know, if you're struggling with addiction, there's programs that can help you get through that stuff. But really, me and you could talk about this till we're blue in the face, but you really got to find that strength and search it within yourself to make that decision to want to stop doing what you're doing that's giving you the shitty results you've been getting. And, you know, they call that insanity. And take it from me. You can take it from you too, man. We've been there. So we're not just talking to hear ourselves talk. We're talking because we live that path. And it ends up down a dirt road at a dead end. And there's so much more to life, bro, than, you know, trying to be the biggest, baddest motherfucker, trying to impress people. Like, there's got to come a time in your life when you just want to meet someone, settle down, have a family, create, you know, have sons and daughters, and just live your life normally. That, like, the square life seems to be the better life because they don't go through any of the shit me and you had to go through. And there's always hope, man. You can always change, you know, surround yourself with good people. You know, I'd rather have 4 quarters than a bunch of pennies, if you get what I'm saying. So just stay striving to be better every day. You know, it's progress, not perfection.
Obviously, we share stories with you guys so you guys don't have to go through these things. If we could snap our fingers, no one goes back to prison. Nobody ever experiences addiction, abuse, trauma, PTSD, all that stuff. We do that because we've been there. But that, especially in 2021, and sometimes you got to stand up for yourself before anybody else. If you could please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that bell notification button so you get all my videos when they're new. If you can share with somebody on social media, help spread the message, help spread the word, that would be amazing. And there's a PayPal option if you'd like to donate, help support the channel. So yeah, man, I totally agree. I appreciate you for coming on. I think that at the end of the day, you have to put enough value in yourself to want to make those changes, because nobody's going to do it for you. Majority of people are going to want to keep you wrapped up in the BS than actually help you. So anyways, I appreciate you coming on. And if you have any last words, you want to shout out your channel, your Instagram, anything like that, go.
Yeah, man, I got a YouTube channel. Just check it out. Subscribe to it if you vibe. It's DOCTV813. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me on the show, bro. And, you know, I hope somebody heard this and got something out of it.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm sure a lot of subscribers are going to come over to your channel, because I feel like you have a similar message. You know, you're not trying to promote the BS, and you're not glorifying and up on here acting like the Incredible Hulk or nothing. But I appreciate you for coming on. Just hold on one sec, all right?